You can listen to The Professional Left wherever you get your podcasts, on Netroots Radio, or at our website, proleftpod.com, where you can also contribute to this podcast. There's a PayPal button at our website, or you can mail us a letter and or contribution at P.O. Box 9133, Springfield, Illinois, 62791.
This is the podcast for the week of June 20th, 2025. It's not safe for work.
Recorded live from the Cornfield Resistance, where we remember stuff like this.
My fellow citizens, at this hour, American and coalition forces are in the early stages of military operations to disarm Iraq, to free its people, and to defend the world from grave danger.
It's The Professional Left with Driftglass and Blue Gal.
Before we get on with the main business, we'd like to direct your attention to our exciting Bob Cesca adventure yesterday.
Yeah.
Specifically, about 20 minutes into our conversation, it got really windy and dark outside, and then the tornado sirens went off. And, Springfield, Illinois, when the tornado sirens go off, you go to the basement.
Yep.
And so that's what we did. We headed to the basement, and we have good internet. This house is so small. We have good internet throughout the house. But we have ridden out 3 tornadoes and a derecho since Driftglass moved here in 2011.
Yeah. And assorted floods and disasters and so on and so forth. And, you go to the basement, and that's where you stay. And that's when Blue Gal thought, what the hell? And logged on to Bob's show from the basement from her phone.
I had to download the app for his platform first.
Because we stood up and said, gotta go, Bob. Sorry. And we'll leave the mics on in case this is a false alarm or something. But we just grabbed the usual stuff. We had a lot of things in the basement already because there was already a tornado watch going on all day long.
Right.
So we had emergency supplies down there and things like that. And then, deep beef jerky, 300 shotguns, enough water to last a year.
Beef jerky or shotguns.
But
middle child is home, and it was really funny because one of the cats was upstairs on her bed, and he did not budge.
Mm-hmm.
But the other 2 came down with us and clung to her.
Yeah.
While she was down there, sat on the same chair with her, stood just glued to her side, which was interesting.
Not us, mind
Not
you.
us.
We're just secondary players in that drama. But we then were able to log on to Bob's show from the basement because, damn it, we're the professional left.
Mm-hmm.
And the show had to go on. And a cool head in a crisis, my missus is. Let me tell you.
Yeah.
My wife knows how to.
I really felt bad because Bob, is kind enough to invite us on. And we always have a great time talking to him. And I didn't want to screw up his whole show. So we decided, let's get on as soon as we can.
Let's tornado schmornado. Let's go. Let's rock and roll.
So next week, if all goes well, we're scheduled to have the amazing Charlie Pierce from Esquire magazine back on our show.
Yes, we are.
And so we're expecting maybe an earthquake or locusts or something. I don't know. But unless it's the rapture, expect to hear us once again hosting America's best political writer next to Driftglass.
Well, we'll see.
Right here at our Midwest Chautauqua.
That's a nice thing for my wife to say. But, when I grow up, I want to be Charlie Pierce.
Well, and when Charlie Pierce started writing politics, everybody went to his comment thread and said, and including me, and said, imitating Driftglass is no way to go through life, son.
Yeah. and I couldn't do sports writing because I don't know dick about sports. Look at me.
Charlie was amazingly kind and became a fan of yours. And you're a fan of his. We love him and we love having him on.
Terrific writer.
And,
and he's been doing this forever. He has a depth of knowledge that I will have one day in 30 or 40 or 70 years. Just a real good guy. But as you know, the biggest story this week has been Israel's surprise attack on Iran, and the highlight of which has so far been the odious Tucker Carlson slapping the GIMP mask and unleash on the equally dubious, awful Ted Cruz, and taking the senior senator from the People's Republic of Texas out for a walk around the block. And we are very much rooting for injuries in that exchange.
Yeah.
But Blue Gal has titled this 910th episode of the Professional Podcast, No War for Ego, because she is a frackin' genius. So
frackin' genius.
I had
it was kind of a funny exchange.
Yeah.
Because I came into your office area and said, I've got a title for this week's show. And you said, so do I. I said, you go first. And you said, time is a flat circle.
Yeah,
and
which is good. Yeah.
It's all right. I said, no war for ego. And you went, yours is better. I said, I know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, you remember the Parks and Rec episode where we're comparing Chris's vegan prepared burger with a regular hamburger on a bun?
Yeah, and everybody said that plain burger on a plain bun was so delicious.
Oh, there's no contest. There's no contest. Oh, my God. Yeah. And Chris is like, oh, it's been so long since I've had a burger. And he fed it to him like, oh, my God, this is so much better. It was that quick of a recognition. Like, nope. Blue gal.
No war for ego. No war for oil. No war for ego. Because that's where we're at, folks.
Exactly where we are.
And we are right back to 2003 and the events that, let's face it, kicked off the liberal blogosphere. I mean, Keith Olbermann said that. This is where I came in, was what he said yesterday. Which is why we have boxes and boxes and boxes of receipts. When I say we, I mean everybody in the liberal blogosphere, from Digby to you to everybody. Okay, so we have so many receipts, such as this promise made by Bloody Bill Kristol back in 2003.
45. Listen, I just heard whatever else you could say about this war, let me just make one point. George Bush is not fighting this like Vietnam. We don't need to refight the whole history of Vietnam.
Maybe. That's the danger of Saddam.
But it's not going to happen.
Let me take
it's
a
not
call
going to happen. This is going to be a 2-month war, not a
Park Hill.
Year
it's
war.
going to be 2 months, not 6 months.
Here's a pop quiz for everybody. Who said, quote, being on the wrong side of Dick Cheney is being on the right side of history? To the architects of the Iraq War who are now so eager to offer their expert analysis, I say thanks, but no thanks. And who also said, quote, the only thing I want to hear from Iraq War architects is an apology. Now, here's a hint. It's not Driftglass. No. It sounds just like Driftglass.
From yesterday, or a day before.
Sounds like Driftglass yesterday.
Yeah.
It was the late Senator Harry Reid in 2015. And I got to say, bloggers didn't always have good things to say about Harry Reid.
No, he did some shit.
I made a Photoshop of him as a body full of Jell-O, you know.
Well, he voted for the war. I mean, he finally said, the worst mistake I ever made was voting for the goddamn war. So.
Yep. And here is Bill Kristol responding to Reid's remarks back in 2015.
I'm not apologizing for something that I think was not wrong. I think going to war to remove Saddam was the right thing to do, a necessary and just thing to do. But
in point of fact, to our knowledge, none of the bloodthirsty ghouls who lied us into that war has ever apologized. Certainly not Dick Cheney.
I feel very strongly about what's going on over there now, just as I did when we made the decision to go into Iraq in 2003. I believed in it then. I look back on it now. It was absolutely the right thing to do.
And not David Brooks. This is from the Huffington Post, May of 2011. Quote, David Brooks, no apologies 5 years later. Brooks is among those who have long argued that they actually got the war right, but Donald Rumsfeld made it wrong, unquote. Remember, because it's always been an article of faith on the right that you never, ever, ever fucking apologize, which explains why there's this virtual embargo among never-Trumpers on anything prior to 2016. The whole subject of what happened that brought us to this point is completely off limits. But here we are again, right down to Ted fucking Cruz stealing the late Michael Gerson's line about mushroom clouds, which he did. We have another reckless, clueless Republican president drooling over the prospect of conquest and occupation in the Middle East. This time around, this reckless, clueless Republican president dispensed with all the carefully crafted lies and staged PR stunts that President Cheney used to sell his war to the American people and bulldoze approval for that war through Congress. This time around, Trump wants the conquest of Iran to be another Trump-branded media product.
That is exactly right.
He wants the big thing. He wants to redeem his shitty antique tank birthday party that made him look like an international laughingstock.
And be the war president.
And be the war president. Be the winning president. He's the winningest president ever. We're never going to be tired of all the winning. And all of which has made for some completely predictable, deep weirdness over here on the side of the angels.
Yeah. Remember when that Bill Kristol fella, Driftglass, whose audio we played for you just a few minutes ago? Well, ever since certain credulous liberals were damn fool enough to let his unrepentant ass into the tent, because he's a never-Trumper.
He's a never-Trumper. He's a hero of the resistance, Blue Gal.
Yeah.
A hero.
He has existed in a state of nearly cosmic tension with his new allies. After all, this was bloody Bill Kristol. Bill, the butcher of Baghdad.
Mm-hmm.
The man Rachel Maddow did a whole segment on about how he is Mr. Wrong about everything.
Yeah, she did.
How if you look in the dictionary for the definition of wrong, you'll find his picture. Yet 5 minutes after the monster he helped create put him out of business, there he was on MSNBC, being welcomed as a long-lost lodge brother, to... to Morning Joe.
Morning Joe and his very good friend Nicole Wallace. And whoever that nighttime guy was that loved having him on over and over again.
Yeah. Because now he was calling Trump a bad man.
Right. So now he's a good guy.
He gets completely redeemed.
Mm-hmm.
And except that while he remained amazingly and grimly unapologetic about Iraq, the judgment of history quickly solidified all around him that this had been a colossal failure by a cabal of men hell-bent on doing it and creating evidence out of whole cloth.
Right. Why?
And justification for it out of lies.
Mm-hmm.
And they lied and lied and lied to turn the war they got into the war they wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Kristol dealt with this potential landmine by choosing venues and interviewers where he could be 95% sure that no one would bring up his past.
And he was mostly successful. I mean, he went on MSNBC a lot. He became a big part of the bulwark. And in all of those places and all the podcasts and all the broadcasts he went on, he was 95% sure that nobody would ever ask him about Iraq and what the fuck he was saying, like 2 minutes ago. But there's that other 5%, Blue Gal, that other little bit of possibility that someone might ask him about shit. After all, Iraq was a world historic debacle that we are still paying for.
Yeah.
So it does come up every now and then. It is in the history books and it is a thing. And if you've ever had the displeasure, as I have had, of listening to one of Bill Kristol's post hoc tap dancing about the Iraq debacle he championed, you really wouldn't have the slightest idea that he was even there. He's like completely removed himself from that picture entirely. He's just gone from it.
I was born in 2017.
Yeah, and he was born a poor black child in 2017. Yeah, he has no idea what you're talking about. And if you listen to him talk, and I listen to these things because that's part of my job. First of all, he talks about it very fast. He wants to get through any mention of this like ripping off a Band-Aid. I want to get through this as fast as possible. And he sniffs constantly. It's like, and this thing, it's just incredibly annoying. I don't know how he thinks he has a voice for radio or for podcasting, but they have him on because he's their senior guy. But he sniffs constantly as if he's allergic to be reminded of anything that happened before 2016. And maybe he is. And his content, what he actually says during the brief times he is cornered into talking about it, is so cringy because it's all rationalizations. Some people say one thing, Blue Gal, about the war. Some people say other things. And everyone had the best of intentions. And there were no bad faith arguments. Nobody lied or anything like that. And even though his own publication, the Weekly Standard, trashed us people, us dirty hippies, week after week after week on the cover repeatedly, there was no hint that there was ever a massive protest to this war, an ongoing protest, or a huge anti-war movement. Nothing like that exists in memory at all. The war just sort of happened. Who knows what happened? We don't even know. It was mismanaged. And, people can draw their own conclusions. So let's talk about Bush's successful war on AIDS in Africa instead. Let's quickly move on from all the shit that went down during the time I was pimping this war and talk about something that isn't unpleasant and horrifying and makes me look like a bloody monster. But now that blood is in the water again, and war in the Middle East is back on the table, this is Bill Kristol in the New York fucking Times yesterday. Quote, "You go to war with the army you have, not the army you might want or wish to have at a later time," unquote. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. That's mistake.
That's not Bill Kristol yesterday, is it?
That was not Bill Kristol yesterday. That was Donald fucking Rumsfeld 21 years ago.
Quote.
Recognize it? Of course we do, because we have receipts, because we've been writing about this forever. That was Rumsfeld 21 years ago. In 2004, a full year into the Iraq war that Bill Kristol was sure was only going to be a matter of weeks, in and out in a matter of weeks, out by Christmas. That was Rumsfeld shrugging off the troops' legitimate concern that they had been sent into this meat grinder with the wrong equipment and were having to, garbage pick ballistic glass to up-armor their own vehicles. Mm-hmm. No, this was Bill Kristol yesterday. Quote, "You've got to go to war with the president you have," said William Kristol in the New York fucking Times yesterday. Said William Kristol, a never-Trumper and editor-at-large of The Bulwark, who was a prominent advocate for the war in Iraq. Geez, you think so? This is Kristol again. Quote, "If you really think that an Iran can't have nuclear weapons, we have a chance to try to finish the job," unquote. And
you got to go to war with the president you have.
Yes, he's an awful, monstrous, degenerate, fascist scumbag. But, there's a chance I can take regimes down in the Middle East, which is, and it just goes to show you, Blue Gal, these people don't fucking change.
No.
They don't fucking change at all. They change their camouflage. They change their coloration depending on their environment. And they have to live with us dirty hippies. So they have to sound, hey, and I think he thinks Trump's a monster, but I think in this case, he doesn't fucking care. Because what he really wants is a bunch of regimes. And he said this. Yeah. At the depths of the Iraq war, people were criticizing Bill Kristol. And I can't find the quote, but I know he said it because I saw him say it. It was like, if we have the strength to do it, if the will to do it.
We have to have the will to do it.
And it wasn't just Iraq. You wanted to go take out regimes all over the Middle East, decapitate them all, and turn them all into,
Project for a New American Century was regime change in countries we don't like.
And the one place he tried it and it failed spectacularly, his answer was, if we have the will to do it, we can do it everywhere, all over the Middle East. And that was his goal. And
this kind of crap from Republicans didn't start with Bill Kristol either.
No, it absolutely didn't.
This was Chile.
Yeah.
During the Nixon administration.
Yeah. No.
Where Henry Kissinger is saying, I'll be goddamned if I'm going to let the people of Chile elect a democratic government that we don't like.
Yeah. Well, and remember, the reason we got Saddam Hussein, and during the time when the rubble was still smoking at the World Trade Center, you had people like Paul Wolfowitz going, let's go Iraq right now. Let's go. And Cheney was like, no, we got to sort of build the case for it. So by the time we rolled into Iraq, I believe some incredibly high percentage of American people believed that Saddam Hussein had done this.
Right.
Because
Bush had gone from state to state saying Al-Qaeda, Saddam, Al-Qaeda, Saddam, Saddam. Al-Qaeda, Saddam.
And after it all fell apart, and people said, why did you tell people that? He's like, I don't think I ever said Saddam Hussein did this.
Yeah.
And the thing was, on the outside looking in, you could see this happening in real time. Yeah. And all the best intentions, all of us jumping up and down, waving our arms, screaming that he's lying to you. He's lying to you. He's lying you into the wrong war. Yeah. There was a family in Iowa, I recall, called the Iteses, I-T-E-S-E-S. They were interviewed by CBS News. Mm-hmm. Both the son and the father went into the military. I think Dad was on active reserve, and the son joined. And the son, a year or two into this thing, was like, this was a mistake. I think that's right. I'm misquoting from 20 years ago, but the dad was still like, nope, Saddam Hussein did it. The road, and it was the road to 9/11 goes through Baghdad or some shit like that.
Right.
And the minute it turned out that and that's, I think, why a lot of Never Trumpers or a lot of MAGA assholes are like looking for redemption, because they were the ones who didn't believe us when we told them they were being lied to. They were the ones. And that was
the great thing about Trump, was Trump wasn't taking the bullshit from Bush.
No, he blamed Bush. He said, "You are all
out blamed Bush. Yeah.
You were all duped. You were all bamboozled. Mm-hmm. It's that man's fault over there. He did this to you. Not you. You're blameless. He washed them in the blood of the Lamb, and he redeemed them. And they loved him for it. Mm-hmm. And let's see how far they're willing to follow him back into battle in the Middle East. But anyway."
The day after 9/11, people in the White House were running around saying, we have to find an excuse to link this to Saddam Hussein.
Absolutely. And they did.
Yeah.
And they did.
And they did. Oh, you know what? All this is okay, Driftglass. It's all right now. It's all fine because Trump says he's going to come to a decision about Iran in 2 weeks.
In 2 weeks. That sounds really familiar, Blue Gal.
It does.
That sounds really
Here's
familiar.
Trump's statement via the Daily Beast, quote, based on the fact that there's a substantial chance of negotiations that may or may not take place with Iran in the near future, I will make my decision whether or not to go within the next 2 weeks. He said in a direct message issued through his White House spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt. The unexpected twist is reminiscent of the 2-week window Trump regularly gives Russia to start negotiating a genuine ceasefire with Ukraine. Oh, sweet summer children of the Daily Beast. 2 weeks has been going on forever.
Yeah, everything is it's the art of the deal in Schrodinger's cat box because you never know.
2 weeks and 2 weeks is the attention span generally of CNN.
Yeah,
and all the mainstream media, and Trump knows it.
Yeah,
and it's how it's what he did with healthcare. It's what he did with tariffs, on and on and on. And we have a clip.
Do you still believe that Putin actually wants to end the war?
I can't tell you that, but I'll let you know in about 2 weeks. Within 2 weeks.
You trust President Putin? You know, in about 2 weeks.
I'd rather tell you in about 2 weeks from now. You can ask that question in 2 weeks. I'd say over the next couple of weeks, wouldn't you say? I think so. Over the next 2-3 weeks. We'll be setting the number. I will make that decision, I would say, over the next 2 weeks.
At some point in the next 2 weeks or 3 weeks, I'm going to be setting the deal.
It should have been done by Biden.
Yes, the Friedman unit. Remember the Friedman unit?
I do.
It was going to be 6 weeks.
6 weeks.
6 weeks
6
more
months.
in Iraq.
6 months.
6 months. I'm sorry. 6 months more in Iraq, and we'll have a clearer picture of where we are.
Let's get back to this in 6 months.
Friedman.
For 2 years, Tom Friedman said, and wait, 6 months. In 6 months.
We did a whole podcast about Tom Friedman a while ago. Mm-hmm. But that's been superseded by the Orange Madman unit.
Yeah.
2 weeks.
It's always 2 weeks. It's always going to be.
And we've got this from Sean Hannity, leading voice at the whorehouse toilet known as Fox News, but appearing this time on his radio show where he says things he can't say on TV about how war in the Middle East this time will be easy.
It looks like it's 1 minute to midnight with Iran. The Iranians rejected the deal. Trump came back and said, okay, it's on you. And I honestly think that it's now inevitable that these nuclear sites are going to have to be taken out. I would rather it not be. I don't believe this will be a long, protracted war.
Super easy, barely an inconvenience.
Yes, that's from this week. Not from the time Hannity said in 2016, like 14 years after the war started, that Saddam had given away all his weapons of mass destruction to Syria.
How sneaky of him to hide
his
his
sneaky.
And I believe he hid his whole Air Force up there, too.
Yeah.
I was a real believer in the Iraq War. I still am to this day. I still feel that there were probably weapons of mass destruction. I do believe they were likely moved to Syria in the long lead up to the war.
So, as you know, Sean Hannity is a member of the Trump shadow cabinet. And I didn't put this in the clip, Driftless, but that first clip where he's talking about, the clock is striking midnight on Iran. Uh-huh. He was actually talking to Bill O'Reilly about how Bill O'Reilly, he was on his radio show with Bill O'Reilly on his radio show. Mm-hmm. And Bill O'Reilly bragged to Hannity that this morning I briefed the president on China.
Uh-huh.
So Bill O'Reilly is briefing the president on China. And what did Sean Hannity say? Wow, that's really interesting, Bill. Tell me more about your briefing. No, he said, yeah, I talked to him today, too.
Yeah. I would love to hear that off-camera conversation. Like, Hegseth, that little fucker used to be in charge of filling up my liquor cart. And it was always 2 drinks light,
Yeah,
This is his shadow cabinet.
Yeah, absolutely. It's who he trusts. And, these days, it's easy to rag on Democratic senators, as many of them voted to confirm actual Trump cabinet members.
Yeah, the ones who...
Which they should not have done.
The ones who have the titles and the money and the power and all that stuff. Yeah.
But this week, I got to say, Democratic senators stood up for one of their own. Mm-hmm. As Republicans led by none other than Chuck Grassley, who is currently the oldest sitting United States senator in his 90s. Mm-hmm. held a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing on Joe Biden's mental decline. You know, Joe Biden, who isn't even in the Senate anymore, let alone the White House.
Mm-hmm.
Led by ranking Democratic member Dick Durbin, they walked out of the meeting, but not before running a video of only some of Trump's worst moments.
Don't you need to uphold the Constitution of the United States as president?
I don't know. The windmills are driving the whales crazy, obviously. I have concepts of a plan. They're eating the dogs, the people that came in. They're eating the cats. They're eating the... I know about magnets is this. Give me a glass of water. Let me drop it on the magnets. That's the end of the magnet. The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
And I repeat, they walked out of this sham hearing. Good for them.
Good on them. Good on them. This habit that they're developing of directly confronting their people across the aisle, their friends across the aisle, personally in their face, because that's the only thing that will work. The Minnesota senator
Tina Smith,
who went right up to Mike Lee, dragged his ass out of a meeting, and dressed him down for his heartless, cruel, asshole behavior. My understanding is that he seemed genuinely surprised that anyone would call him out.
Anyone would do that, right?
Because I'm a senator and I get to say and do whatever the fuck I want, and none of this matters.
But she's a senator too,
right?
That's the point.
But you're not supposed. You're a Democrat. You're not supposed to call me out on stuff. You're not supposed to do this. You're not supposed to contradict. We're all supposed to be. It's a friendly little club we have.
Right,
here.
and politics, social media. What I say in social media has no impact on my standing as a senator.
No.
Well, it has a lot of standing, and a lot of people are still calling for your resignation from the Senate.
Yeah, and maybe more than that.
As I think it was Jon Stewart who said something about, instead of being a senator, you've decided to be an edgelord.
Yeah, well, that's how you get ahead in Republican politics.
That's how you raise money in the Republican Party these days. Yeah.
And speaking of raising money in the Republican Party, that's a terrible transition, by the way. That's one of my worst transitions. But you'll forgive me when you hear what I have to say, because I'm going to hijack part of this podcast to do a mini letter show. You know how we do letter shows sometimes. I want to do a little tiny letter show. These are not letters from listeners. We love our listeners. We get a lot of letters from them. Sometimes they say we're dumb. Sometimes they say, I can't hear you on my left speaker. Whatever. We read them all, and we take them all very seriously. We really do appreciate the feedback. And we've gotten this day feedback from some new Seska listeners who were like, hey, I'm glad we found you. So we really do take a lot of interest in those, and we do appreciate them. Instead, these are emails we get which are completely unsolicited and unprovoked. We did not make anybody mad, and they had to tell us what they thought. These days we get a lot of pitches. I guess we're getting up there. We're raising our profile a little bit. So we get a lot of pitches from publicists and agents about a book that somebody has written and every single one of them promises to be some groundbreaking, revolutionary, reshaping the way America thinks about everything. It's going to change the world, Blue Gal. Mm-hmm. But these aren't those. We get lots of those, and those go right into the shredder. But these aren't those. Instead, and this is strictly for entertainment purposes, this is not intended as a solicitation. Before I delete them, I salvage just 3 from the slush pile. Now, the first one, I'm just going to read you the topic lines in the newsletter. This is from Tom Fitton, Judicial Watch Corruption Chronicles, because I get letters from him. The FBI's Patel and Bongino, hostages of the deep state? Yes.
There's got to be some explanation.
Yes, there has to be. It can't be that they've just been lying all their non-governmental lives, and they can't really do that as much as they'd like anymore.
Not under oath in front of Congress, they can't.
And so they have to sort of, edge away from their outrageously ridiculous, inflammatory lies they used to tell on the radio that made them famous or on podcasts. But of course, that can't be the answer. The answer has to be someone in the deep state has gotten to them, and Tom Fitton knows who. Now, what made this especially funny, I thought I'd bring this to your attention, is there is a read more button. And don't tease me, Tom. Of course I want to read more of this. Why would I not want to read more about Dan Bongino and Kash Patel being hostages of the deep state? So I want to hear more about that. But when you click on the read more button, you get a warning. A warning screen pops up, and here's what it says, quote, warning, potential security risk ahead, which is just delightful. Firefox detected an issue and did not continue to that website. The website is either misconfigured or your computer clock is set to the wrong time. No, my computer clock is never, ever set to the wrong time. You can count on that. It's likely the website's certificate has expired, which prevents Firefox from connecting securely. If you visit this site, attackers could try to steal information like your passwords, emails, or credit card details, unquote. Perfect. That's fucking perfect. It's very, very sad. It's also very, very sad.
It's spam. Yep.
Some other topics from Tom Fitton's newsletter are: who controlled Biden's auto pen? Are his pardons valid? And bribed USDA official helps run one of the largest food stamp frauds in U.S. history. Now, so just nothing but fun from Tom. And I get these every week like clockwork, like the accuracy of my computer clock. Now, with this second unsolicited pitch, I'm going to read you the whole thing because it comes with a punchline. This is from a guy named John Moran. He says, hey, Driftglass and Blue. I don't know who Blue is. We have no Blue here.
Blue, right.
But the algorithm is doing its best. I wanted to touch base one final time. Oh, apparently he's talked to us before about joining you for an episode of The Professional Left. Oh, he knows our podcast. That's very exciting. As the founder of Go USA and inventor of the Ops Score, I've witnessed the significant impact this nonpartisan political rating system has made. It's effectively engaged over 1 million voters, Blue Gal, shifting 85% to support America First Republicans. Oh,
Wait a minute. Nonpartisan political rating system shifts 85% to support Republicans?
Sure, because if you honestly rate the issues, Blue Gal, like, do you love freedom? Is America great? It will shift your opinion away from those dirty, filthy communists. He's apparently not aware of the fact that we're dirty, filthy communists. Over to being a supporter of the America First Republicans. 1 million voters, 85% of them, Blue Gal. Why do I think all of that is bullshit? But, let's take good old John at his word. The conversations on your podcast are dynamic. Well, I love talking to my wife, but I don't know what the hell you're talking about.
Yeah.
And I'm certain discussing how we bridge the voter divide. You mean get more people to vote for your asshole candidates with tools like the Ops Score would be a great fit. My background is quite varied, from being a former MIT Space Telescope scientist, because that's exactly how you explain things when you're a former MIT Space Telescope scientist. You don't say the James Webb or Hubble or anything.
No,
I used to do space telescope stuff. To founding multiple ventures. I'm sure many an Herbalife thing was sold by you in a previous life. And I believe this perspective could add a fascinating layer to the discussions you facilitate. We don't facilitate, and
AI wrote this.
Of course it did. I hope there's still a chance to collaborate. Nope, none whatsoever. And and thank you for considering my proposal. We don't so much consider it as reading it aloud for comic effect there, John.
Yes, right.
I'm really excited about the potential for this dialogue. No.
The potential for this dialogue.
Trust me, if we met at a bar, you would not be interested in the dialogue we would be having, John.
Or its potential.
Yeah. And then he signs his name. And here's the punchline. Quote, watch John Paul Moran's interview on Newsmax with sex god Ed Henry, unquote.
Ed Henry?
Yeah, it's a whole thing.
On Newsmax?
Yeah, he got Ed Henry to interview him on Newsmax for 5 minutes, and that's his advertising pitch. I was on Newsmax.
Vegas hostess sex maniac.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's the guy. So, I you know what? I wasn't going to have him on our show until I saw this Ed Henry thing, and that turned me right around, Blue Gal.
We're competing with Ed Henry.
No, let's get him on quick. Maybe we can get Ed Henry himself to come on our show.
It's good to know that all these former Fox News sex maniacs can find a landing spot on Newsmax.
Yeah, it's like a petting zoo for them.
It is a petting zoo. It is. And the Newsmax viewers have no recollection.
Of course not. Well, they might remember what Ed Henry said 2 weeks ago. That's about it. Their attention span's about that long. Now, just finally, lest you think we only get pitches from right-wing lunatics, about once every 10 days, like clockwork, I get a whole tedious manifesto from a guy named Bob Avakian, who is, and I'm quoting now, quote, an American political activist and Maoist philosopher, who's also a revolutionary leader and the architect and chairman of the Revolutionary Communist Party, which is a whole new framework of human emancipation, unquote. So I'm very excited to get these emails that keep me more entertained than they should. That's probably wrong of me. And I do not know how we keep getting on these lists or why they persist month after month. despite there being no reply or interest from us whatsoever. But I suspect it has a whole lot to do with the relentlessness of automated email algorithms.
So what you're saying, Driftglass, is both sides.
Both sides, which means, Blue Gal, by definition, we are centrists.
We're centrists. Oh, gosh.
We finally arrived. The money should start pouring in any day now.
The centrist money. Mm-hmm. That centrist dollar is a good dollar.
It's a very good dollar. It's a really, really good dollar, Blue Gal.
On the one hand, Ed Henry interviewees. On the other hand, the International Communist Party.
The
Revolutionary Communist Party.
The Revolutionary of America. So,
yeah. I wonder if he's ever exhausted a Vegas hostess.
I would like to
sex demands.
I would like to put the two of them in a room and just watch them talk. That'd be fun. Now, would you like
Ed
to do
Henry. Ew.
Shall we do a news roundup?
Yeah, let's do a news roundup, Driftglass. You start.
Well, let's start off by mentioning that Lindsey Graham popped out of Trump's ass today and saw his shadow, which, as you know, means another round of let's go regime changing in the Middle East. Yay! This is an actual quote from Lindsey Graham. Quote, taking the regime down is a good thing, not a bad thing. I'm willing to risk what happens next, unquote. From the safety of your...
He's taking no risks whatsoever.
From the safety of your Senate seat or your bunker or wherever you hang out, whatever weird bar you hang out in these days, you will be perfectly safe from the fallout of whatever happens
I'm willing
next.
to risk. Fuck you.
I'm willing to risk many American lives for my beliefs.
Yeah, as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
All right, Fox News broadcast. This is via CNN, but this is what happened on Fox. Quote, as Clay Travis opened his mouth on Fox News last night, he was hyper aware of the viewer in chief.
Mm-hmm.
President Trump is probably watching this show, Travis said to Fox host Sean Hannity, as both men urged the president to eliminate Iran's nuclear program. We have to do it, Travis said, adding, we can't go halfway here. Republican hawks are clashing with MAGA isolationists. No kidding. CNN's Sarah Ferris documented it all, and many of the arguments are happening on social media sites like X, as well as podcasts like Steve Bannon's War Room. But Trump's favorite TV network has staked out the pro-war position, and it isn't making as much room for debate. Guest after guest on Fox has played to Trump's ego, simultaneously praising the president and pushing for U.S. intervention through his television screen. On Hannity's show last night, Mark Levin literally screamed as he depicted a battle of good versus evil and doubted the patriotism of the isolationist camp. And I will add, on his own show this week, Mark Levin went straight for Trump's ego again. Mm-hmm. You have to obey the president of the United States, he screamed into his TV. But hold the phone.
I just want to say, so we're back to being America-hating, terrorist-loving scum, right? Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Good. Okay.
Hold the phone, though. This morning, Fox News came out with a poll which sadly showed Trump's popularity slipping rapidly. Maria Bartiromo did her best to hide the results of her own network's polling. It was something to behold, her trying to change the subject.
Look at my tits.
But the poll showed that 54% of registered voters disapprove of the president's performance. And of course, Trump was watching. The Daily Beast reported Trump's response on Truth Social. The crooked Fox News polls got the election wrong. I won by much more than they said I would, and they have been biased against me for years, he said. They are always wrong and negative. It's why MAGA hates Fox News, even though their anchors are great. This has gone on for years, but they never changed the incompetent polling company that does their work, unquote.
I feel almost obliged to suggest that before you put this episode in the can, mm-hmm. I go hunt up the Humphrey Bogart testimony from the Caine Mutiny. They were all against me. They were all against me.
I will leave that to the listener's imagination. Okay. But yeah, strawberries, and they're all against me.
I would just like to mention that I think it was 2016. Mm-hmm. I did a Photoshop of this orange lunatic as Captain Queeg from the Caine Mutiny going, this guy's fucking crazy. He's absolutely out of his fucking mind. And, here we are, nearly 10 years later, and he's just gotten worse, slower and dumber and more dangerous.
Yep. I'm amazed when I look at video of Trump from 2016.
Yeah, he's at least
how much worse he is.
Yeah, well, he doesn't have to work as hard, and whatever he was taking to keep him, his brain focused, keep the syphilis at bay, seems to be failing.
Well, 10 years will do a lot to a person.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah.
CNN spoke with former State Department official and Middle East expert Brett McGurk. This is what he said, quote, "It comes back to one question, Fordo, which I think I'm pronouncing correctly. McGurk told CNN's Wolf Blitzer on Monday. Fordo, just FYI, is the underground nuclear bunker in Iran, which I believe is like 260 or 300 feet underground, like a football field of depth you have to get to this thing." Back to the quote, "This is something that the U.S. can take out. This is something the Israelis would have a lot of difficulty doing. If this ends with Fordo intact, you could actually have a worse problem. You could actually have Iran more inclined to go to a nuclear weapon, and they have the infrastructure intact," unquote.
From Al Jazeera, quote, "Drop Israel. How military escalation with Iran divides Trump's base." Key right-wing figures, including some Trump allies, question the Israeli strikes and warn against a U.S. war with Iran. Influential conservative commentator Tucker Carlson, seen as a major figure in Trump's Make America Great Again movement, said the U.S. should not support the war-hungry government of Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Right-wing Congressman Marjorie Taylor Greene also sent a message suggesting that she opposes the strikes. She has previously cautioned Trump against attacking Iran based on Israeli assertions that Tehran is about to acquire a nuclear weapon. "I'm praying for peace. Peace," she wrote on X. "That's my official position." While many of Israel's supporters have cited the threat of a nuclear-armed Iran, the government in Tehran has long denied pursuing a nuclear weapon. Trump's own intelligence chief, Tulsi Gabbard, testified in March that the U.S. continues to assess that Iran is not building a nuclear weapon. Charlie Kirk, key Republican activist and commentator who is a staunch Israel supporter, also voiced skepticism about engaging in a war with Iran. "I can tell you right now, our MAGA base does not want a war at all whatsoever," Kirk said on his podcast. "They do not want U.S. involvement. They do not want the United States to be engaged in this," unquote. And I would add, that's why they voted for Trump.
That's right.
He was the peace president.
And since this is clearly a regime change attack, it's an attempt to overthrow the government by force. I would just like to ask, if regime change is on the table now, is it something officially the U.S. is cool with? Can we do some of that at home? Can we have a regime change here, a domestic regime change? I mean, peacefully, of course, but is it all possible that we could just have a little scoop of that here? This is from the Associated Press. Quote, "Trump approved U.S. strike plans on Iran, but held back a final order calling it his ultimate ultimatum," which sounds like the title of Transformers 10, The Ultimate Ultimatum, or something from wrestling. For Tehran.
It sounds like a final episode of the season of the
Apprentice.
Yeah.
It's his ultimate ultimatum.
It's his TV show.
Yeah. This is all Trump's TV show. For Tehran to dismantle its nuclear program. Supreme Leader Ayatollah al-Khamenei, however, rejected Trump's demand for an, quote, "unconditional surrender," unquote, and warned the U.S. intervention would bring irreparable damage. While Trump hasn't made a final decision about whether to strike Iran, he suggested that the next week is going to be big, and said, "I like to make a final decision 1 second before it's due, because things change," unquote, because he is desperately looking for someone to come and do the job he was hired to do for him, because he's really bad at it and he's dangerous and he should never have been elected.
He doesn't want to risk any support from MAGA.
No.
Because that's the cash cow.
Right. Those are the dum-dums who will buy his gold phones.
Right. Exactly. This is from the New Republic, quote, "Trump is suddenly raging at Tucker Carlson and MAGA is deeply rattled. Is opposition to forever wars really a core pillar of the MAGA republicanism?" Mm-hmm. Yes, it is, by the way. It looks like we're about to find out. I think that it is. It absolutely is the issue that Trump got a lot of cred from Republican voters who were ashamed of George Bush.
Right. The dum-dums were looking for someone who would redeem them.
Yeah.
And they get to beat up brown people at home now. They get to beat up brown people at home. And he promised, no, we're never going to go to war again. No more wars of any kind, because I can negotiate anything. I will end all wars on planet Earth day one.
Right.
You know,
right.
and because I'm just, he did. He certainly did. And I'd like to point out that 12, 14 days ago, it was Daddy Elmo Munch fighting with Daddy Trump. Now it's Daddy Tucker Carlson.
Daddy Tucker Carlson.
When all the daddies are fighting with all the daddies, that's very confusing for the MAGA people. They don't know what to think or who to believe.
And the worst thing they can do is turn everybody off.
Right. I don't want to hear.
If they decide, I'm just done with all of them. I'm going to go enjoy my garden, or go boating or something. That's the worst thing that can happen.
Yeah, because then the ratings go down.
The ratings go down. Yeah.
This is from Senator Mazie Hirono. Quote, I asked Pete Hegseth a simple question. Will you follow federal court orders? He said no. The lawlessness of this regime is a threat to all of us, unquote. Keep it simple.
As you know, Driftglass, I'm an editor at Crooks and Liars.
Yep.
And we are always looking for stories where a Republican administration official fucks up.
Yeah.
Or is embarrassed by his appearance before Congress or whatever.
If I may just suggest, they fuck up constantly. They're never embarrassed by it.
They're never embarrassed. But when a Democratic senator or representative calls them out, that's a Crooks and Liars post.
Right.
I had to tell my staff yesterday to stop writing Pete Hegseth posts because we had too many.
Yeah. He is a Pez dispenser, isn't he?
It was becoming the Pete Hegseth website.
Yeah.
And not that we don't want to cover all of those, but we got to cover other things as well. So it was just like, oh, look what he said now. Oh, look what he said now. Oh, he just said he's not going to obey the courts. Oh, and that was a post, obviously. But
and there's word. I don't have the quote in front of me, but there's word that he's just being bypassed by the Joint Chiefs. They're just going right past him to Trump directly. Because he's fucking useless. He's a fucking broke down, useless drunk.
And he doesn't know what he's talking about.
And he was in charge of that, making that parade look like the best parade ever. And it doesn't look like the best parade ever. And maybe it's time for Pete Hegseth to go upstate and play with other secretaries.
To go back on Weekend Fox.
Yeah, that'd be great. That's good news for you there, Pete. Anyway, continue.
CNN asked Representative Randy Fine, who's a real piece of work, you were called out for calling a school board member a whore in a text. You've called one of your congressional colleagues a terrorist. This is why I'm not a congresswoman, by the way.
Yeah.
Randy Fine has the audacity to be a congressperson. Are you part of the problem? He was asked by CNN. Are you part of the problem? Representative Randy Fine, congressman, said, calling evil for what it is, calling danger for what it is acceptable.
Yeah. This is the spawn of Newt Gingrich.
Yeah, Newt Gingrich, exactly. He's trained to do this.
These are the eggs that Newt Gingrich laid in that party. There was already a very fertile ground in the 90s, in the late 80s and early 90s. So, don't come to me and tell me this all happened in 2016 because it didn't.
No, it didn't.
And if you lie to me, at least respect my intelligence enough to tell me a good lie, not a dumb lie. This is from Brother Charlie Pierce, who, as we said, will probably be appearing on this podcast unless, come the rapture. Quote, in short, the House Republicans passed a bill that would cripple the Medicaid system. This newly proposed Senate version would blow a hole in it, unquote.
They made it worse.
They made it worse.
The Republican senators made it worse.
Mm-hmm. Yes, they did. Congratulations.
From Donald Trump, quote, we got some gas stations where a few weeks ago it was $1.98. We got the gas down low, unquote. AAA reports that the national average for a gallon of gas is around $3.20.
Yep.
And hordes of people on social media were at a loss as to where Trump got the $1.98 figure. Mm-hmm. Fun fact, he lied about it.
If you're ever at a loss to where Trump get a figure or a quote, or they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, it's because he's lying. And if at this point you haven't figured out that he's lying, you're just confused about where can I find that gas station, then maybe you're the problem. Yeah. Maybe you need to sit this one out, Cowboy.
Well, and I don't mind that liberals love fact-checking.
No, not at all.
That's fine.
Easy.
And go and look up the AAA numbers and shout on social media that he's lying. That's fine. But
hey, go over to, you know what? One of the things I've noticed, just because I peek over the fence every now and then, is, you know, the British expression to rinse someone? It's to completely gut them. It's just to make them, just blow them out of the water. I am adoring the fact that ex-Twitter users, liberal users, are using Grok to humiliate Elon Musk.
Oh, yeah.
And Donald Trump. Because, hey, we found it's $1.98. Hey, Grok, where exactly? There's no place in the entire country that gas is selling for $1.98 at all, period. Oh, and I theorized, and this is a deep cut for all you Star Trek The Next Generation people, that Elon's going to have to write another AI and call it the Packlet. Because the Packlets were these stupid people, the stupid aliens who stole things, who terrorized people, who kidnapped people, who were dangerous, but very, very easily misled. And I think that's the kind of AI that Elmo wants on his site, and not one that will actually look up shit and spit out the actual results, regardless of whose feelings get hurt. Yeah. This is from Politico, unquote, quote unquote. The Federal Reserve held interest rates steady at 4.25% to 4.5% and raised its inflation forecast, but signaled that it still expects 2 cuts later this year. So, boring Fed stuff in the headline. Hours earlier, Trump called Fed Chair Jerome Powell a stupid person and demanded a 2.5% rate cut, which would be one of the largest cuts in Fed history. Unquote.
2.5% all at once.
Right now.
When they move at 0.25%, just fine adjustments.
Yeah. No.
This is why SCOTUS won't let Trump fire Jerome Powell.
Right. Well, and he was and Trump was speculating after this that maybe he could appoint himself as the Fed chair.
Maybe he could appoint himself Fed chairman.
Is it okay, Dave? Steve, can I do that? Is it okay, Dave? Yeah. Yeah.
I want to see the face of SCOTUS. Watch their stocks collapse.
Mm-hmm.
If Trump decides to appoint himself Fed chairman and reduce interest rates by 2.5%.
Yeah, we're going to reduce them to -4 because that'll supercharge the economy.
Right.
Yeah,
we're going to make money free again.
Yeah.
SCOTUS upholds. I mean, that would be a colossal disaster for our economy.
Well, yeah, and this guy is just again a drunk monkey with a machine gun, and that's what his people want.
This is very bad news. SCOTUS upholds Tennessee ban on gender-affirming care for trans minors. Tennessee's law prohibiting certain medical treatments for transgender minors is not subject to heightened scrutiny under the Equal Protection Clause and satisfies rational basis review. In other words, don't question us.
Right.
Sotomayor, joined by Kagan and Jackson, interestingly, by retreating from meaningful judicial review exactly where it matters most, the court abandons transgender children and their families to political whims. In sadness, I dissent.
Yep.
Yeah.
Regime change, honey. Regime change. This is finally from the New York fucking Times, another very sad, monstrous, heartbreaking story. The Trump administration will end LGBTQ suicide prevention services. The federal government says it will maintain funding for a national suicide prevention hotline, but no longer pay for specialized support for LGBTQ people because the bigots demand blood, and blood they will have.
Yeah. And it's why the first Pride was a riot.
Yeah, exactly.
Each week, let's take a deep breath, everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
We love you guys.
Yep.
We love you guys. Each week, we post to our Patreon page and website an Internet Kitty sent in by you, the listeners. This week's Internet Kitty, however, is actually a dog, a Pomeranian named Mulder.
Oh, God.
Indeed, Mulder is named after Fox Mulder of The X-Files, and Mulder the dog is proof positive that Poms are people. They just are. And of course, Mulder eats freshly poured pet food, our fake sponsor. Whether you serve pet store perfection or dollar store dreck, your dog will sit on the kitchen floor and insist that the truth is out there and that the food they eat is only freshly poured.
Freshly poured, freshly poured. Oh, my Lord, it's freshly poured.
And you can visit Mulder at our Patreon page, patreon.com/proleftpod, or our website, proleftpod.com. And you can send your Internet Kitty, dog, or other pet to us at our email address, proleftpodcast@gmail.com, subject line Internet Kitty, where you can also write to both of us. Feel free to write to us. We love hearing from you. Be aware that if you write to us at any of our addresses, we reserve the right to read your email or U.S. Postal Service, go Postal Unions, letter on the air unless you say otherwise.
And this one goes out to a constant reader and a commenter and a person who stays in touch with me whether I want him to or not. Tom Fitton, don't forget our gourmet coffee guidelines. I know you got money. I know you do. I know you can afford to buy yourself lots and lots and lots of espresso-based beverages. So for God's sakes, buy one for us. The rest of you as well. This is not charity. This is our job. And if you can spare $5 a month, please spare $5 a month at patreon.com/proleftpod.
I got news for you.
Uh-huh.
We would not take money from Tom Fitton.
No, we wouldn't do that.
Absolutely not. Under no circumstances.
No.
Guy is a garbage person.
Oh, yeah. No. And his shirts don't fit.
No.
Another thing you could do for us, if you could, would be to share our show on social media. That'd be really cool if you could do that. I'm not going to pressure you or make you feel guilty if you don't, but maybe you could just this one time share us on social media. And if you love this podcast, get someone else to listen to it too. And thank you for doing that.
And again, thanks to Bob Cesca for having us on yesterday. Mm-hmm. That show is up.
It is.
You go on to look for it at Bob Cesca's Blue Sky account. He has it linked, and I've reposted it as well.
Same here.
We're both on Blue Sky, right, you guys?
Yeah,
we're not on X.
No.
But we're both on Blue Sky. I'm Blue Gal on Blue Sky, and Driftglass is Driftglass on Blue Sky.
Yeah, I know. Weird. I got there early.
You got there first. That was good.
Staked my claim, Blue Gal.
Yeah, please follow us. We'll follow you back. And Driftglass, how are the Internet Kitties doing this week?
Well, Blue Gal, the Internet Kitties have a secret plan to end tornadoes forever, which they will be revealing in 2 weeks.
Let's think about living. Think about living. Just think about loving. Think about loving. Just think about the hooping and the hopping and the popping and the lovey-dovey. Let's forget about the wine and the crying, the shooting and the dying, and the fellow with the switchblade knife. Let's think about living. Let's think about life.
The Professional Left podcast is recorded under a Creative Commons license. Copyright 2024-25. GGBG Productions.